Hello, this is PalicoPadge and welcome to an episode of Talking and Trucking, where I play a little bit of American Truck Simulator in the background and generally give you a bit of a catch up on what's going on with the channel and me in general. And as I always like to try and start these episodes off on, it's firsts, and this is, I'm copping out a little bit here, I do realise, it's the first of a new decade. I said decade then. That's the right way, I do that in post. First of a new decade, huzzah, and all that. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you've had a jolly one. It's been interesting, shall we say, as far as my end is concerned. It's been busy, and that's the thing I find when it comes to having a young child. Everybody wants to see you, whether you want to see them or not. And from having, I think it was 9 days off, all in all, we've only been able to have 3 alone as a family, where we've had a consecutive run of quiet days, which has been lovely. But even so, it's gone quick, and I don't feel like I've had much of a break. But hey, he's not going to be young forever, so you've got to try and be in the moment as much as you can. And that's really what this talk is all about, really, being a daddy-o and what's going on with the channel and how it's affected it over the past 12 months. Now, I'm sure you've realised, if you're a long-term viewer, that my video output has dramatically decreased over the last 12 months. And this is simply because I'm not able to find the time. And when I say not being able to find the time, it's not so much a case of being able to find the time for the editing side of things. It's the recording side. I very rarely these days get time where I can sit down in a quiet space. And if you've seen a previous video of me giving you a look around our house, our very tiny house, you can see that the only way I can record and get decent sound output is to do it when nobody's here. And although my partner tries to give me as much time as she can when she's out of the house, I don't like to infringe on what is her downtime. She's recently started a new job. She's gone into insurance, of all things, and it's working out pretty well for her from what I gather. But it is a pretty full-on job at the moment because she's having to learn a whole new trade, which ultimately is good. The pay is better than what she was on before, but it does mean that when she gets home, all she wants to do is chill out. And when you've got a young son like we have, it's very difficult to be able to come home and just switch off straight away, because there's always something going on, whether it's the cooking of the food for both me and my son, or washing, and I try and help as much as I can, but she's a little bit of a control freak when it comes to these things, and she likes to do things herself. She thinks that's the traditional role for a mother, and as I said, I try and help as much as I can, but there's certain things where she won't relinquish the control as easily as others. All I want to do really is be able to give her an environment to be able to chill out as and when she can. And that means that in turn, my time where once upon a time she'd go and do the gym or she'd go and do a fitness class, by the time she finishes in the evening, it's just too late, and all she wants to do is sit down, chill out in front of the TV, which coincidentally is the same room as what I record in, and mess about on her phone. And I'm not one to take that away from her. She works very hard looking after the family, and if that's what she wants to do, then by all means I'll let her do it. So being able to balance my usual output on YouTube as well as doing my part around the house and looking after our baby has taken a hit, shall we say. It's a case of I try and do as much as I can, and as my son's getting older, there are times where my partner can do things a little bit differently to give me a little bit of time to record fresh. But generally, we're only talking, a half an hour segment here or a half an hour segment there. Now, I did say in the last time I did a Talking and Trucking that I do get every other Thursday for a couple of hours, and that's not going to change. But there are certain changes which I'll be telling you about now, which is going to help compensate for me being able to be semi-regular as far as my output's concerned. Now, the one thing which I've kind of copped out on, but it is part of the gimmick of the channel, is I have stagnated on my Let's Plays over the last good 3 or 4 months, possibly even longer. I've lost count, it's been so bloody long. And those are with both Curious Expedition and RimWorld. RimWorld more so, because there is a lot of downtime in that game, and when I don't have the time to record, it does mean that any recording I do get is premium, regardless of what the quality is like, because it's better to put out something as far as the YouTube algorithm is than to put out nothing, regardless of how good that quality is, because it shows a constant upload, which is generally considered good for your channel, however good the content is. So RimWorld personally was a big relief when it ended the way it did, and although you can say that half the time it's down to my incompetence in playing the game, which I will hold my hands up to completely, definitely my incompetence. I think semi-consciously I was looking at ways of bringing it to an end sooner rather than later, especially when I learned in the playthrough that now you can't just build your ship and take off. You have to actually endure a 15-day siege, which, well, let's face it, we weren't going to be able to do that with our setup. And as it turns out, when that mysterious man turns up at the end and tried to help out what was left of the colony and get wood back up and running, we did use the mortars, and it didn't do the job we hoped it would. So ultimately, you know, shit happened, and well, that's the way RimWorld pulls out, really. As far as Curious Expedition is concerned, that's more of a game which I feel like I've done to death, including the mods. It's not something which I'm going to end completely. I'm still going to crack on with a mod every so often, but it is going to become a bit more sort of few and far between as far as those playthroughs are concerned. Generally speaking, I know that the mods aren't balanced that well, so it is a lot easier to complete it on sudden death, but I think once you've completed the game X amount of times on sudden death and you recognise the patterns of the way the maps are procedurally generated, it does mean that you tend to start to notice the little things which are either going to help you or hinder you. That has obviously been shaken up a bit as far as the multiplayer experience is concerned, but as I said in a separate video, I can't really dedicate the time needed in order to be able to do well at the multiplayer adaptation of Curious Expedition, and that is much of a muchness with any multiplayer game at the moment. Just before my son was born, I bought Escape from Tarkov, and I love the concept. It's more of a hardcore version of DayZ, and I would love to bring it to the channel, and it's something which I hope to be able to do in snippets, but at the moment I just don't have the time to sit down and learn the maps and learn the guns and put in the time needed in order to be not so much an effective player, but at least a competent player, so I don't get my ass handed to me every time I play it. And as I said, that's the run-of-the-mill with most multiplayer games, which is why I don't tend to do them. It's nice to be able to go into single player and know that when you press that escape button or that pause button, that you're going to be in exactly the same position when you come back to it, whenever that may be. And it just works out well for me. So to come back around to my point, it's a case that I do feel, well, I know that I have stagnated over the last 12 months, and it's something which I want to change coming into a new year and a new decade. Got to mention the decade again. So there is going to be a slight change in the format of this channel, which I will be doing over the next month, I hope, if not slightly longer. The first thing which I'm looking forward to doing, and that's bringing back the Padge Plays series. Now that will be in all formats that I do, so that'll be the retro, the YOLO, the indie, and the replay. And that's because for me as a content creator, it's a way of keeping things fresh, because I'm always playing something different. Okay, it might be 5-6 episodes long, but I know that it's on the shortfall going to be done with X amount of episodes, and I can move on to something new, and that just keeps it fresh and interesting for me. Now, as far as those games are concerned, I can tell you right now that the first one I'll be recording when I get the chance is a replay, although it's going to be called a retro edition of the DOS game Street Rod, which was one of the very first Padge plays I did on this channel. And the reason behind that, and I'll go into it very slightly here, but there'll be a full-on rant in the new video, is over the Christmas period, because as my subscribers creep up, you tend to get noticed more by the bigger powers that be. I put a small snippet of the song Grease Lightning from Grease at the end of my video, and it's been copyright claimed, and I believe they're running ads on it. So I'm going to do a new one, and I'm going to delete the old one, and I'm going to make sure there's no copyright music in that episode. I know there's a few more Padge plays around, and possibly a couple of... I've deleted whole series before when I've had problems with copyright, but we won't mention Wasted again. And it's something which I am quite happy not to put adverts on for the time being. It might change later on down the line when I am able to monetize, but right now that's fine. But I'm not going to let other people claim advertisement money on my videos that I've put the work into, regardless. So that will be deleted quickly, and we will be seeing a new Street Rod playthrough in the near future. Now, the next thing which I'm going to be doing, which is going to be a little bit fewer and far between, but will be more constant. I've got to stop saying fewer and far between. Is to put it bluntly, the games I like playing on this channel are story-driven games. Now, that can mean, as you saw in RimWorld, and I've seen it in other series I've done before with minimal editing, which is mainly on my half, but hey ho, you've got to deal with it as it comes, is there can be downtime within these games. So what I've decided to do is have a more single, heavily edited series running throughout with a certain game until either the game or the story is complete. So what that means, as far as from my side is concerned, is there will be flashes of gameplay where there will be just an honest reaction to the game I'm playing as I play it, and that will be recorded when there aren't people around. But I'll also be playing it when my family are home, and I'll be recording the game volume, but I won't be doing my voice, and then there will be scripted parts put over it, or reactions after the initial recording has happened, to make it more into a more fluent item to watch as a piece of video on YouTube is concerned. So instead of it being, for instance, me playing RimWorld for 25 minutes and a couple of things happening, but being 10-15 minutes worth of downtime in between, you would just see the highlights or the things I think are interesting, along with either real-time reaction or scripted reaction for afterwards. And that means that I can then record when my partner's home and my baby's awake screaming around, and I can just get on with it, and I can pause it when I want and cut up the highlights and bring it to you guys. Now, obviously that's not the sort of thing which I should be able to do weekly easily. It's something that I'm going to aspire to try and give you weekly, but as it stands, I'm not going to promise you that. You will get a constant flow of those videos. I'm not going to say every Tuesday or, you know, every Saturday, because I don't know how it's going to fall. There might be a few nights where, which he's doing at the moment, my son's being a little bugger and he's not sleeping till like 10, half 10. I'm not likely to log on to a game at that point and be able to record for an hour fluently and give a decent play, regardless of whether I'm talking or not over it. So that's something which you will see a more constant upload of, but as and when that happens will be as soon as they're ready. I think that's the way it should be. Now, as I've said, I am going to try and aspire to put out 2 a week. So you should get a Padge plays a week and a more heavily edited video a week. But, and as I said, it's a big but, it will be as and when. I'm not putting any more pressure on me, because I feel like I stress a lot about this channel, and really it's just a hobby. And as I said, it's not like I'm relying on this for a wage or anything. This is just something I do in my downtime. But I do feel like if I don't put stuff out and I don't give you a good reason on why I haven't put anything out, that I am being judged for it. But hey, that's the internet, I suppose. But yeah, so I am going to aim for 2 episodes a week, 1 Padge plays and 1 more scripted, but it'll be as and when they come out. Now, the other thing which I mentioned in a previous one, which I haven't got around to doing, and that's because on the build up to Christmas, I've just ground to a halt as far as extra editing is concerned, is I am still planning on doing a special episode on a certain subject. Now, that could be gaming, that could be just life in general, that could be retro inspired, movie inspired, I don't know. You've seen a few of them before. I've done my Christmas, I've done my Halloween one in the past, where I did my favourite zombie movies. Stuff like that, where it's a bit more heavily edited, definitely more scripted and put together. That's something which I also want to be able to put out on an irregular basis, much like Ahoy, but obviously not up to his fantastic... I'm not even going to mention my name in the same sentence as Ahoy, but that sort of scripted video I'd like to be able to put out on whatever subject takes my fancy as and when it comes up. But My issue with that, and as I said, haven't been able to do any editing properly for about 4 or 5 weeks now, is I'm still working on my son's video, which is a To Jacob video explaining how he was born. The long and short of it is, if you're a new subscriber and you don't know the story, my partner had a surprise baby where we had no idea she was pregnant. Literally, from us finding out to the baby being born was 6 hours. There is a video floating around where I explain it, and also I've written about it on my blog. I'm sure, if I remember, I'll put it up as a link so you can go and check it out. I also did a private video, which again I'll probably link if possible, showing you all the media coverage we had, all the media coverage I could get hold of, because he was a little starlet in his own right, which is fantastic. But it's something I want to try and roll into one video to put with his newborn baby pictures he had on a USB stick he was given. And also, I'd like it to be able to, so people on my Facebook page can view it, family and friends and whatnot. So that's something which I really want to start cracking on with, because it's far behind schedule. I promised him for like his first birthday. He's like 20 months old now, so that's something I really want to crack on with. So as soon as I get that done, then I'm going to start working on these special videos for the channel. So the year to come, it's 2020. Fresh year, new starts and all that. What am I planning on doing? What am I looking forward to as far as this channel is concerned? Well, the big one, if you haven't collared onto it already, which I find very hard if you're a follower of mine not to have, but it's looking forward to Curious Expedition 2. The alpha has kicked off now. I know they're working very hard on it, and improvements are being made daily, but it's not something which although I've had the invitation, wanted to jump in so early, because I have been burned by overplaying games whilst they're being produced still, and then by the time they're released in the full vision of the developers, I've been bored of it. And Curious Expedition has been absolutely fantastic for the growth of my channel, and I would hate to be sick of that game before it's time. So I'm hoping to be able to crack on with that as it matures and becomes a more playable game, and when the developers Mashing and Mensch are happy for it to be shown on YouTube, I'd like to think that they would at least consider me, although I'm not the biggest fish in this very large pond that we call YouTube. So that is something which I'm hoping to be able to keep an eye on and be able to bring to you guys in the near future. The big one for me, from a creator's perspective, I'd like to hit 1,000 subs this year. It's not a big goal, and everything else, to be honest with you, is just going to be winging it. You know, it's yeah, I just hope to be able to carry on doing this and bringing new stuff to you, and that's really what it's all about for me. It's being able to have a constantly fluctuating content for you guys, you know, be able to show you new games, whether they're old new games or new games. I've had a load of games offered to me, which although I've said yes, I'll take them, I haven't actually accepted the keys yet, which are just waiting there on one of the websites I've signed up to. And yeah, we'll see how it goes, really. As I said, I'd like to think I'm going to be doing this this time next year, and hopefully we'll get over that 1,000 subscriber barrier. So I think I'm going to end it here. I'm kind of ranting now. We're going on for like 20 odd minutes. No doubt the lorry has gotten close to its destination now, so that'll be all good. So I'll just finish by saying I wish you all a very happy and healthy new year, and I look forward to being able to carry on doing this and hopefully get the quality up a little bit and a bit more different for you in the future. So thank you for watching. As always, a like is appreciated, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.